Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Now, there is a power grab going on. There's a new law being proposed that is to, in theory, outlaw what's called conversion therapy. That is to say, beating the gay out of children. It's going to be made illegal. You're not allowed to do various techniques and things. It was first brought in Australia, and, it can be controversial. Now, I understand and can agree with part of it, especially with the Americans getting so very sort of, we should say, religiously minded, where they would send kids off to gay camps, where they would sort of basically pray the gay away, force things on them, try and brainwash them, gaslight them, and push all sorts of fear. If you are gay, you must get down on your hands and knees and beg God for eternal forgiveness or you will burn in hellfire and all that crap. Putting the fear of God, psychologically really damaging. And so, yes, I can agree that something like that does perhaps need to be banned for the mental health of the child. But that's not what is happening. And instead, there's a far more insidious grab of power by making a law specifically and deliberately bland and all-encompassing rather than specific. We'll take a look at that. Here goes. Now, of course, in essence, yes, I think everyone can agree you don't want to be doing things to children that would be physically or mentally, emotionally damaging. But that's not what the problem with this law is. This law is being left deliberately vague so that more power can be taken, more assumptions made in a legal sense, rather than just aiming specifically at harming children. To have a law that is designed to make sure that children are not harmed is absolutely fine, and I do get that. But when you are making it so deliberately vague so that you can extend your power, your authority, your control over a far bigger area than what the law was originally specified for, is insidious, as I say. It's dangerous, it's undemocratic, and I think it is very, very harmful. But these, of course, you're dealing with the SNP. It's Marxist. They want to destroy families. They want the control of your children. And if they can take away parental rights, parental authority, they will do so. Because they don't like families. You see, parents are a problem to these Marxists. Because parents will instill in those children what the parents want to put into them. And that's not what the state wants. The state wants control so that the state can create the happy little worker drones that they need. And that's why this legislation must be resisted. We're going to take a look at this. Hundreds of church leaders call on the SNP to ditch conversion therapy plan as an Australian comparison has been made. The Scottish Government has vowed to introduce legislation before the end of this year, but is instead consulting on a potential ban. Well, they won't get it through this year, will they? Hundreds of church leaders signed a letter calling on the Scottish Government to ditch plans for an outright ban on so-called conversion therapy. The SNP wants to bring forward legislation to outlaw the practice, which is used to try and change someone's sexual or gender identity. And again, if you're talking about beating the gay out or praying the gay away or, such coercive, physically, emotionally and mentally, then yes, I agree, you shouldn't damage the children. But what they're saying with this is, as a parent, and you've got, let's say, a 12-year-old girl who's come to you and says, I think I like girls, mummy. I think I'm that way. I think I'm a lesbian. I think I prefer girls. A parent may talk to their child, at the moment, may freely talk to the child and say, well, you're at an age where your body's going through all these changes. Your hormones are out there. Things are changing. You're very confused about who you are, your identity, your sexuality. And it may well be that you're not lesbian. It's just that you have girlfriends and you admire them and that your hormones are raging and thinking that what you have as a deep friendship and an admiration is in fact love. Let's see how it goes. That's not a terrible conversation to have. But under this law, that conversation makes you a criminal. Seriously. Because at any attempt, any single attempt, no matter how gentle, how well intentioned, any single attempt that you make to say that your daughter or son may not be what they think they are is seen as conversion therapy and would be breaking the law. The SNP themselves say you're not even fully developed until you're 25. So how do they expect a 12-year-old girl or a 13-year-old boy or whatever to know at that age, particularly when they're going through such massive physical, hormonal changes, emotions rampant, bare, raw? How can they expect them to be so sure at that age when they deem someone not mature enough to go to prison for R-ing a child at 25? The hypocrisy here. But what's more is the dangerous thing about not allowing parents to talk to their children about this. It's too bland, it's too wide, and it's too all-encompassing. But that isn't an accident. That is what they want. They want total control so they can take your children from you. Critics say the plan of conversion therapy is a deliberately broad term chosen by LGBT activists. They claim that as well as the grotesque illegal assaults, such as corrective R-ing and abusive quack medical practices like electric shock therapy, I think they use the word therapy quite, yeah, okay. Any new law would cover the likes of a casual conversation and gentle, non-coercive prayer, and parental consent for gender therapy. So here's the thing. Let's say your 13-year-old boy says, "Mummy, I want to be a girl. I want to take these various puberty blockers or whatever. I want this and I want to have my operation and become a girl." A doctor cannot operate on a child without parental consent. This is the law. Outside of an absolute emergency, and at which case there is still an official hearing, it will generally be okay, but, no child can be operated on without parental consent. No medical procedure, nothing. Parental consent is, by law, required. If a parent, according to this law, refuses to give consent to allow their child to undergo unproven, no long-term studies taken, possibly dangerous, permanent, life-destroying medications and operations, and they fail to give their consent, they are breaking the law. This cannot possibly be right. And yet this is what the SNP want. This is the SNP, again, continuing with their obsession of children, of sexualizing children, of pushing children's rights ahead of their parents, giving children an absolute pathway to self-destruction, and not allowing parents to even talk about it. This is the destruction of the family unit, which is what these Marxist bastards want. They're coming after your children. And they tell you what, they're not only coming after your children, they're making it illegal for you to defend your children from them. Pick up your child. Ladies, have a child, give birth, pick it up and hand it over to the SNP because they want to do whatever they like with your children. That's what they want. That's their direction of travel. This is what they're bringing in. This law will destroy children and make it illegal for parents to protect them. And they're bringing this in. They want this brought in. Hey, all you SNP supporters, is that what you bargained for? Is that what you were after when you voted SNP? You wanted your children controlled by these bunch of pervs, predators, peds? Because that's all the P's stand for in the SNP. We've seen it, and I've got names. And these people want to do these things to your children. It is absolutely disgusting. Anyway, the letter, which will be sent to Holyrood's Equalities Minister Emma Roddick, claims that existing laws are sufficient to deal with abusive practices. It's been signed by over 450 church and pastoral figures, as well as 1,100 members of the public. Ms Roddick has been asked to look at the example of Australia, where the state of Victoria brought in similar laws, which have been described as campaigners as the gold standard. The co-signatories claim that this has led to state-sanctioned language for prayers and pastoral conversion. The letter goes on. It requires that religious people must only pray in a way that affirms everyone as perfect as they are. It says that prayers that talk about a person's brokenness or need to repent, or which ask for a person not to act in their attractions, are harmful and therefore likely to be illegal. No sincere Christian may in good conscience deny the historic faith in this way. It is a central tenet of the Christian faith that every human being is not perfect as they are. In the Lord's Prayer, we ask God to forgive us our sins and lead us not into temptation. Praying the Lord's Prayer with a person who identifies as gay or trans in Victoria could, under the kind of ban you are asking to legislate, lead to an accusation of unlawful conversion therapy. Saying the Lord's Prayer is being made illegal. Would you go out there and say, let's ban the prayers in Islam? Of course they wouldn't. They haven't got the balls to do that. But hey, Christians, fuck them. And also, children, definitely, fuck them. Only the other way with this lot, because that's what they want. This is who they are. These are a whole government of predators, pervs and peds, and they're coming after your children, and they're making it illegal for you to defend them. The Scottish Government has previously vowed to publish legislation before the end of this year, but it was not included in the Grand Mufti's programme for government, and instead it will consult on a potential ban. And a key point of the Butte House agreement with the Scottish Greens, filled with the likes of Maggot Chapman, a woman who's desperate to sexualise every child in the world, to be handed around and used for the pleasure of her chums, and with the process not expected to get to the end of next year. Co-signatory of the letter, Reverend Dr. William Phillip from the Tron Church in Glasgow, said any new bill on conversion therapy would see parents and churches in the firing line simply for daring to disagree with LGBT orthodoxy. He said the LGBT activists behind this bill want to target abuse, not abuse and coercion, which are already illegal, and therefore there is already a law there for it, but private prayer and casual conversations if the content does not affirm their ideology. You cannot even talk to your children if they say they're gay. They might just be confused. Who knows? You can't even talk about it. And if you do, you're breaking the law. Welcome to the dystopian future of the SNP that you, moron SNP supporters, have voted for. Hand your children over to the predators, because that's what you've done. Hope you're proud, you sad, sick mothers. I'll stop now because I can see I'm getting angry. The one upshot of this now is that everyone who votes for SNP is a predator, a pede and a pervert. And if they admit that they're SNP, you just say, well, you're a predator, you're a pede, you're a perv. That's it. There's no excuse. There's no excuse. These people voted for this, and they're voting for the state to control your children, to do what they want with your children, to let your children destroy their lives, just so that little boys can pretend to be little girls. That's just how these pervs like them. Well done, SNP supporters, you bunch of maggots. Stopping now, coming up, got a lot more to get through. Don't want to get angry. Bye.